it was, in my estimation, watching it go down, had the feeling of a torch being passed. It had that feeling to it. And I'm not referring from Rodgers to Jordan Love. I'm not. And as a matter of fact, it's interesting enough that Mike Tirico mentioned the anniversary of Aaron Rodgers' first nationally televised coming out party, which was November 29th, I think, back in 2008. And that anniversary is tomorrow, when the Packers and the Cowboys played each other on NFL Network, and I was there in the end zone, and it was Favre versus Romo, and it was Romo against the guy we idolized growing up, had pictures of Favre on the wall, and Favre got hurt. And the whole country was watching because both teams were at the top of the NFC.
2007.
Got it. So I wasn't even really thinking about that. And Rodgers came out when Favre got hurt, and Rodgers was so good. I remember Mooch standing next to me and Marshall on the other side of me because we were there in the end zone in the old Texas Stadium, where the roof had a hole in it so God could watch his favorite team play. That's the phrase that was being used for all those years. And I remember we were looking at each other. We were going higher register that whole time. Like, oh, the kid from Cal could play. Wow, look at this guy. We all know what happened. And so there's going to be a lot of cheese taken today because Jordan Love came out in that game late and threw it around. And suddenly Christian Watson's running down the field. And, Lazard's making catches and the ball's flying out of hands. It's not like that defense was gunning for Jordan Love. It's not like that game was tight. It was a 2-score game. But the fact that Rodgers wasn't out there meant that he was definitely hurt. And sure enough, Rodgers said after the game that he was having trouble breathing and moving his upper torso around, and he's already got the broken thumb, and now they're 4-8. And the torch that I'm talking about, feeling like it was passed, is the torch from Rodgers to the generation that Jalen Hurts is now the bold-faced name and face-front star of. This kid's awesome. This kid is it. This kid is him, to use the phrase of 2022. This kid is him. And he's doing things that we'd never seen before, like 120 yards, 125 yards passing and receiving in a half. Okay?
Ridiculous.
The fact that he didn't break Justin Fields' record for most rushing yards in a game was kind of surprising. That's because everyone else was running the ball so well.
Oh, Miles Sanders just scored again.
So, to me, that's the feeling I had. And after the game, Jalen Hurts on NBC was talking about how he grew up watching Rodgers. And it was an honor beating him. And it just, that's where it felt like to me the nail is just, because Rodgers is now 4-8. Rodgers says he wants to still play this year. I don't know why he would, to be very honest with you. And, last night, watching Rodgers slinging around to take a 13-point deficit and turn it into a tie that should have been a lead, if not for a missed extra point. That, to me, is Rodgers showing that he still has it, but that's just a half of football. The rest of this team is too banged up. And for him to come out pushing 40 and hurt, it's kudos to him to say he wants to keep playing. I don't understand why. And then I don't know what the future is because his contract is untradeable. And if he retires, there's a huge bill that would be due in dead cap money. I don't know what the answer is on all this front because I do read, that maybe he's going to be done, period, in Green Bay or done, period. This guy strikes me as a football player who's still got a lot left to give. But I just felt last night that the two-time defending MVP of this league, back-to-back MVP of this league, is not the future of this league anymore. And you could sit there and say, well, he's pushing 40. Well, look, Brady is 45 years old. And it's interesting that on this day as well, another 12 in Cleveland lost a game that he's never lost before, leading with 2 minutes to go by 7, and they lost. That's never happened in his career. It's his first such loss. And I saw this team in Munich. I saw this team in Munich say that all they had to do is get to 500, go on a bye week, come back, and then plant their foot and go, just like they did in their Super Bowl year when they were 7-5, losing on this very weekend to the Chiefs. Thanksgiving weekend on a Sunday, losing to the Chiefs to go to 7-5, and then didn't lose the rest of the way. They said that was the plan, and they went to Munich and they played their best football game. Rachaad White ran for 100 yards. Tom Brady was throwing it all over the place. The only mistake he basically made was slipping on the turf when he was trying to receive one. Devin White was everywhere. They played great defense, and they just beat down the Seahawks. And then came back from their bye and couldn't win in Cleveland. Now, yes, they've got Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett as a grown-ass man, and Jacoby Brissett's playing his best football just as he's now going to hand the reins back to Deshaun Watson, who gets cleared to return today to start this coming week for the Browns. But for me, the moment was late in this game, Brady and the Bucs up 7 on the 37-yard line of the Cleveland Browns, 4th and 2. Tom Brady standing there, and the coach, I guess, Todd Bowles, says, let's punt. And I'm like, what does Tom Brady do with this? Tom Brady is told to take a delay of game penalty on 4th and 2. Like he does 4th and 2 in his sleep. He and Chris Godwin can run around in their sleep on 4th and 2 and move the chains. Like he's done that with Edelman, name it. He's done it with Patton. He's done it with Caldwell. He's done it. Name a guy.
Givens.
Name a guy he's done it with. He's done it.
Yeah.
And you're telling this guy, let's play defense. And I saw that, and I said to myself, I don't know how Brady computes this. How does Brady compute being taken off the field on 4th and 2 in the fourth quarter? And I totally know this is revisionist 2020. Because at the time they're up 7, and if David Njoku doesn't make some sick one-handed grab on 4th down to send the game in overtime, we're talking about how the Bucs are 6-5 with a 2+ game lead in the NFC South, rather than 5-6 going into a Monday night game against their bête noire, the New Orleans Saints, and its defense. So I understand it's a thin line between being critical and then not even talking about it. And how bad and costly was that overtime? Because if you say, make sure Njoku doesn't catch it on 4th down in the end zone, or you don't punt it there and you put the ball in the hands of your GOAT quarterback, Tom Brady, and say, pick up 2 yards, Tom. And the defense that you love so much that you want to give a full field to, you then put the pressure on them and say, defend half the field. You give the ball to them on their own 37 as opposed to the ball on their own, 17? They only gained like 18 yards on a punt. Right? I mean, like, it just, to me, it doesn't compute. It just doesn't compute when you've got Tom Brady. But how costly was the overtime? Tristan Wirfs got hurt in it. Their best offensive lineman on a banged-up offensive line. And, I mean, it looked so bad, apparently, that Fox wouldn't even show the replay of it. Jonathan Vilma said it was too gruesome to show the replay of it. He gets carted off. But God bless him. The guy's such a mountain that he doesn't need surgery, and he might be back in a month, which is good because, unlike the other 12 in Rodgers, this 12 sure looks like he's still in line to host a playoff game against your Dallas Cowboys, unless the Cowboys can somehow get some help from anybody who plays the Philadelphia Eagles and then win that game on Christmas Day themselves. What a big game that is, Eagles and Cowboys on Christmas weekend. But that's the way I sensed it. Tom Brady today has got to be looking around and saying, what the hell is going on around here? We can't run it again? I know he might be looking in the mirror talking about whatever mistakes he's making, but the one thing he's definitely not doing is saying, yeah, you know what? This offense, I don't have any confidence in it. Just have me take the delay of game penalty and punt. Like the last coach that I think that probably did that with him was Lloyd Carr. If you had to think about it. And I love Todd Bowles. And I just saw him in Munich. And I got a good sense from this team that they were just steady as they go, despite all the problems. But at least this team has a chance to make the playoffs and then reverse fortune. I don't know what the Packers are going to do with Aaron Rodgers. But I just got that sense, I got the sense that there was a nice breath of fresh air and excitement when Jordan Love got out there. And I know that's going to give a lot of fuel to the Rodgers should sit and depart because it's time for Jordan Love in the same way it was time for him when Favre was still there. Not ready to go there, but I just got the sense that this is not the Brady-Rodgers league anymore. It's the Hurts league. It's the Mahomes league. It's the league of Allen and Herbert and Tua
and White
and Burrow and Mike White. Thank you for including him.
Trevor Lawrence had his best game.
He did. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.